Hello, everybody. It's Gareth here from Paris Technologies with the third in our series on budgeting. And today we're going to look at direct cash flow, probably the easiest part or the step one in budgeting. Now, first question, of course, if I say direct cash flow, what's the difference between direct and indirect? Direct cash flow, I'm actually going to be analyzing the bank statement and finding out where my cash went. With indirect cash flow, I'm going to look at my balance sheet, analyze it, and then find out where my cash went. In summary, in principle, you get to the same answer, but with direct cash flow, you have a lot more flexibility with the categories that you want to use. All right, so we're going to start with the very simplest, which is going to be personal budgets, right? Our individual budgets, the one thing that we probably all should know something about. First of all, step one with your personal budget is you must have a written budget. And you'll be surprised how many people don't. So step one, write down your budget. Now, it's personal to you, and you can have any categories you want, but you want something that's meaningful and you want something that's repetitive month to month. So here I've got some ones that I like to use. I've got net salary, I've got other income, mortgage, insurance, alimony, car repayment, fuel, all the way down to a breakdown of my entertainment expenses. And then I've got total expenses, and whatever's left will be like extra savings. And then I always have a few additional categories, which I call reimbursable expenses. If you spend some money, but you're going to get it back, you want to have categories for everything, even if it's not an expense. And that's because you want to capture your whole bank statement. You don't want to leave anything out. And I'll explain why as we get there. Okay, so I've got this little budget written down, and that's what I'm going to try to achieve for the month. Okay, so that's step one. Step two, then, I need to divide my budget by week. Now, this is important. Direct cash flow, the gold standard is you do it by week, even when we get to major corporates. And we're going to get there over the series of this, over this video series. Now, the first thing to understand when you're talking about weeks is that not every month has 4 weeks in a month. Some weeks have 5. So we need to be able to plan up to 5 weeks. But in some weeks there are 4. So I'm going to have a little bit of conditional formatting here that if I put a 1 in that cell, I'm going to ignore this week. I'm just going to plan 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I have 5 weeks, I'm just going to put a 0, and that's going to let me plan for 5. Now, so I'm going to take my monthly budget and I'm going to figure out how many weeks there are in this month, and then I'm going to split that budget over all of these weeks. Now, I've done it for you already, so I'm just going to quickly fill this in for you to save time. Okay, so there you go. You can see now I've split my monthly budget into weeks, and each month I'm going to do this differently because depending on the how I classify the week, depending on where the month falls, depending on when I'm going to get paid, I'm going to split it over those weeks appropriately. Okay, so step two, I've split my monthly budget by week. Step three, I want to capture my bank statements. Now, I want to do it as simply and as quickly as possible. Now, as you can see here, I don't have too many columns, right? I need to capture the amount, and then I'm going to capture the vendor, or I'm going to capture some notes, and I'm going to capture the category, and I'm going to capture the week number. That's all. No dates, nothing complicated, simple as anything. And actually, I'm going to capture it manually. And the reason why is, first of all, it's not so difficult because it's just me personally, so I'm not going to have that many transactions in a week. And secondly, as I'm capturing it, it's that little audit check to say, hey, has somebody else been spending on my credit card? Why did that come off? And it just gives me that little bit of extra control, and I would recommend it. It doesn't take that long. Okay, so what are the complications of this method? Well, I need to get this category correct. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to put it in my summation over here. And I need to get this week correct. Now, a lot of people maybe overthink this. The category, I don't need to put any, I can use Excel's rules, data validation. I can do lots of complicated things, but the reality is I don't need to do that. I just need to keep it simple and be okay with my typing. And so what I've done is I've just created a little formula here that's going to check that it's one of these categories. And if it is, it's going to return a 1, 2, or a 0. And then I've got some conditional formatting. And you'll see. So if I put in 100 and I say this is Shell, for example, and I put this in as fuel, and I put this week 1, and I check it, you can see it comes up green. And that's all I need. It's simple and effective. Okay. I'm going to fill my whole credit card in. So here I'm going to start with the opening balance of my credit card. I'm hoping it's 0 because I paid it all off last month. And then I'm going to look for this closing balance, and I'm going to compare it to my credit card statement. If they agree, it means I've done a perfect job capturing. Now, to save time, I've already done it for you. So I'm just going to copy it in. And I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, and I'm going to check it and check I've got green dots all the way down. Yep, no problem. And now I'm going to put it in these columns here, and I'm going to use an aggregation formula. Now, if you're doing this with Excel, you can use a pivot table to do this, or you can use SUMIF or SUMIFs formulas to do it. All of them will work. I'm lucky. I've got a Olation OLAP engine sitting behind my spreadsheet, so I can just go ahead and do that. All I need to do is rebuild my cube. I'm going to do that, and then all of my data is come flowing through here. And there you go. So you can see I've split it all out nicely. I should be able to check that I've got 1080 expenses, 512 in reimbursables, and that's going to match to my credit card closing balance. So great, I've allocated everything nicely. I also need to capture my second credit card, and I'm just going to check that. I'm just changing my filters, have a look at the data for that, and you can see this credit card I just used for food. So it's simple, it's allocated all my food through nicely. And then I'm eventually going to capture my main bank account where my salary and all my major expenses come off. And I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. Simple and easy. Okay, so I'm going to capture my bank transactions. The next thing I want to do is I want to start to forecast. And this is where we sort of go from what everyone else is doing to what I'm saying is elite and what you should be doing, right? After my first week of the month, I now have actual data coming through in my first column. And I need to compare now, if I carried on per my weekly budget, what would happen? So as you can see here, my fuel, I managed to save $11 in that first week. But my food, I'm way over. The kids didn't come and grab money from me, so I saved a little bit there. But I'm over with the house expenses. I'm over with a couple of expenses. And if I carry on going like that, I'm in trouble. I'm not going to make it to the end of the month, and I'm potentially going to start to incur credit card debt, which I do not recommend at all. So I need to think a little bit. How can I save money later on in the week? And I want to think about expenses that potentially are variable, like other entertainment. Now I might say, oh man, I was planning a trip away, but it looks like it's not going to be to a 5-star hotel. Maybe I'm down to a 4 or something like that now. And okay, I'm back in business. Then a week later, after I've captured my bank statement again, I come in and I'm looking at the next forecast. I've added 2 weeks worth of actual data, and I'm looking at my variances. And as you can see, my food keeps going over budget. I'm just getting a little lucky there because the kids haven't pestered me, but now I'm starting to worry because the kids haven't pestered me for 2 weeks. Maybe they got examined at school, but I know that's going to come back later. So there's no good just pretending that's not going to happen. That's going to come back. So let me put 200s in here. And now let's have a look. And again, I'm going over. And it's a little tricky, right? You can see my fun food. I'm spending a little bit too much there. And, I'm spending over there. So maybe I've got to say, well, I'm going to have a week of no fun food. I'm going to have a tight week there. And, right, I'm going down to 3-star here on that week away. And, okay, I'm still good. One more iteration of this. Let's have a look, because we had 3 weeks of data. So what happens after my third week? you can see my trend is still continuing. I'm overspending here on food all the time. And, you know, I said I wasn't going to spend anything on fun food, but I did. So I'm still struggling a little bit, but not too bad. Again, the kids didn't come for money, but they're going to come back. So let's readjust that. And where else could I save? Okay, maybe on these other expenses, and maybe I'm not going to do any more repairs on the house. And let's see where I get to. And there we go. I'm good. So every week I'm reanalyzing how money has been spent and where have I got an opportunity to not spend so that I come in on budget. And that's the critical part. And then one final element of this then is I need to come back at the end of the month and I need to look at it in a kind of a holistic fashion and say, well, at the end of the month, look what happened here. So my food budget originally was 500, but I spent 765. And my fun food budget was 500 and I came in at 519. So, you know, is 19 significant? No, let me leave it at 500. I think I manage that, but this I don't think I can manage. The 500 is too low. So for February, I'm going to make that 565, or let's make it 570. And then I can see that I'm going to be negative here. So I need to adjust somewhere. And, you know, maybe I'd say, well, let me adjust my savings. Answer is no. We always pay ourselves first. 10% of my salary, I want to be saving that. So that's not going to change. But I've got this other line here where I have this discretionary entertainment expense. So maybe I need to reduce that down. And now for February, I'm going to reduce that. And I'm hoping for, I've got a little saving of $30. Okay, well, let me give myself $730 as my budget for that. And there we go. And that's how you do direct cash flow or your personal finances at elite level.